A road not taken. We rarely get a glimpse during our time on Earth of the roads not taken, of lives unlived. I was given that opportunity once, under heartbreaking circumstances, the funeral of my very first friend in the world. My beloved cousin Joey had lost her horrendous 10-year battle with metastatic brain cancer. She had defied the odds through numerous clinical drug trials. Every time we thought she was nearing the end, she would rally again. She simply would not give up. As little girls, Joey and I were inseparable. Our mothers were sisters-in-law, Maritimers who had married two brothers from Western Canada. Though unrelated by blood, Bessie and Eve were connected through a labyrinth of Jewish family connections in Cape Breton, where both of them grew up. As was the fashion in the 1950s among families, Joey and I lived around the corner from each other in a North Toronto neighborhood. We were thrown together as soon as we could climb out of our cribs. Dragged around the city on their errands, we would regularly get separated from our mothers, only to be reunited after a grocery store employee pronounced over the public address system, "If the mothers of Joanne and Robin Pascoe are still in the store, please come get them." Our parents socialized together, so Saturday night sleepovers were a regular thing, as were our respective birthday parties. Those later became annual phone calls. Joey grew up to be a strikingly beautiful brunette. Her dark brown eyes had an exotic olive shape. I would often tell her, to her delight, that she looked like the British actress Jane Seymour. As children, out and about with our mothers, Joey looked as if she belonged to mine. The resemblance between aunt and niece were striking. Being close to her Aunt Bessie, my cousin always enjoyed the case of mistaken identity. On the night my mother died, Joey and I sobbed together. When Joey died in 2019, mere months before the pandemic began, I almost didn't go to her funeral. I'd already crossed the country twice that year to visit her, the last time barely 2 months before her death. To be honest, I was hoping to be out of the country, traveling on business when the cancer finally took her. I wasn't sure I could face the finality of the ritual, but Rodney convinced me to fly to Toronto so I could attend. I didn't learn anything new listening to the eulogies. I already knew my cousin was the beating heart of a huge extended community of family and friends. I had watched them surround her with so much love during her long illness. Joey didn't live in the spotlight. She left that to her glamorous older sister Linda, whom she adored. As a devoted wife, loving mother, and tireless volunteer, my cousin led a full, rich life even during the decade in which cancer slowly took her life. I was a pallbearer at her funeral. Her husband, Michael, told me my cousin would have wanted me to have that honor. I would have agreed to anything Michael asked. His extraordinary, loving care had been witnessed with a mixture of awe and jealousy by Joey's friends, who wondered how their own partners would deal with a wife's debilitating illness. On that cold, crisp November day, I was one of 8 mourners clinging to Joey's heavy coffin. We stood over her freshly dug grave, a freak snow squall clouding what had been a clear blue sky on the long drive up to the cemetery. How does this hellish moment of watching you be laid to rest possibly qualify as an honor, Joey? But paying tribute to my cousin's life did allow me to marvel at how differently our lives had turned out after a shared golden childhood of toddler tea parties, sleepovers, Hanukkah parties, and sleepaway summer camps. I was given that rare gift of a view of what might have been for me. My cousin had followed a traditional path, marrying a nice Jewish boy and raising a loving family in Toronto. It might have been the path I had chosen if my mother hadn't died young, introducing a stepmother into my life and making Toronto the last place on earth I was ever going to call home. Joey's life ingrained her so deeply in her community that her death left a gaping hole in many people's daily lives. I traveled widely and chose to live very far from my roots. Some might say I ran away from them, which wouldn't be far from the truth. On one important matter, though, Joey and I were aligned. We had both married Winnipeggers, choosing prairie boys like our fathers, giving both of us long, happy marriages. The last time I spoke to Joey, it was from a Brazilian hotel room. Rodney and I were attending an annual Maple Bear convention for our school owners. It was also my birthday. As my beloved cousin and I chatted, I noticed that someone had apparently let themselves into our room while I was in the shower to drop off some convention swag. Joey couldn't believe that I was taking this invasion in stride, even laughing about it. "How do you do it, Rob?" she asked me for the upteenth time, neither of us knowing it would be the last one. "How do you handle all the crazy travel you do?" I never got the chance to tell her that I could not have done it without her help. Joey was my North Star as she fought her cancer that decade. Whenever I started complaining about a late-night arrival in Nairobi or an endless security line in Dubai, I would ground myself by thinking about her and how she never lamented the unfairness of her cancer and never gave up on living. I saw so much of Bessie and Joey. It went beyond their physical resemblance. They were self-effacing, modest women, never deliberately drawing attention to themselves, but attracting it nonetheless. Their funerals, more than 50 years apart, seemed eerily similar to me. Crowded sanctuaries for both of them, the air heavy with grief on a November day, the soulful, poignant sounds of the Hebrew mourner's Kaddish, the distraught family and friends. One day, I can only hope to be missed so much by so many.